you listen to reason? Will you open your eyes? It's a wonder what you'll find with an open mind. You may be surprised. Yeah, gotta get away from this illusion. For the sake of the world, this delusion. It's gotta go.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Atheist Experience. I am Russell Glasser, and joining me for her second appearance on this show is my wife Lynnea Glasser.
Hey, good to be here.
Hey, the return of nepotism. Linnea's really good though. She got a lot of good mail after her last show.
Now we know we can trust that endorsement.
That's right.
All right.
Authority. Today is Sunday, September 8th, 2013. Tomorrow's my birthday. We are a live call-in public access atheist television show based in Austin, Texas, dedicated to promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We're available through live streaming video at ustream.tv. The official Atheist Experience website is atheist-experience.com. You can provide feedback by sending email to tv@atheist-community.org, or you can get on the official show blog, freethoughtblog/AXP. I guess I should mention that I'm substituting for Matt Dillahunty today because he and Beth are off exploring God. If you guys have heard the last few episodes of either the Atheist Experience or the Nonprofits, we've mentioned some ridiculous billboards up all around town that say explore God, and I think Matt actually got invited to some church to actually do that, so he's taken them up on it. If you enjoyed today's show, then you can check out our related podcasts. The Nonprofits is back on a regular schedule on the first and third Wednesdays of every month. We've done 3 episodes this season. We did one last week, and we'll do one the Wednesday after next. Godless Bitches is also now officially off hiatus, from what I hear. They've recorded a new episode last week, and I don't know if they posted it yet, but that's definitely going to be out there pretty soon. So you can check out the Atheist Experience website for more information about those shows as well. And the crew and cast of the Atheist Experience always goes to dinner after the show here in Austin at Threadgills at 301 West Riverside Drive, arriving around 6 p.m. That's a good social hangout, but not nearly as good as the big upcoming social hangout, which is the Atheist Community of Austin Bat Cruise. There's 3 weeks left, I believe, maybe 2. Saturday, September the 28th, 2013. And here's what we've got lined up for that day. The ACA Free Thought Library is now going to be available for an open house, so you can check out some books and hang out starting at noon. At 3 p.m., P.Z. Myers will be giving a lecture on the evolution of bats. Totally appropriate for the event, and the Bat Cruise starts at 6. And that's all for the announcements this week.
I feel like we need to bring back the raise hands thing. Announcements are over.
That's right. We haven't done that in a long time. That's
well, the announcements have been kind of short as of late.
That's true.
So I have a topic today,
Okay.
which is a great topic. That's all right, announcement stuff. And it's kind of about extended universe within Christianity, which if you treat Christianity like a fiction, there's a lot of the core beliefs and the things that are definitely canon and included in the Bible that people take for granted as real. But there's all this auxiliary stuff, you know, like, do you believe in miracles? Do you believe in angels? things that are happening outside of the
Right.
Bible.
Hell is actually mostly non-canonical since it was brought in by the Inferno guy, Dante.
Dante, yeah. So
And also Milton, Paradise Lost, had a lot of afterlife stuff.
exactly. So you know, a lot of the beliefs, are they canon? Are they believed? Why are they not canon? Why would you not believe them? And I think a lot of the calls that come into this show are technically part of that extended universe, because people will call in and say, hey, I experienced a miracle. This is evidence for God. And, you know, do you believe that? Do you not?
So they're like atheists writing fan fiction in some sense.
In a way. And so I wanted to go...
Christians.
Yes, Christians.
Sorry.
So I wanted to go with some very specific fan fiction, if you will, which is Irish folk tales. And the fact that they're called folk tales indicates that most Christians do not consider them canon, despite the fact that they clearly reference God and angels and all of these things. So I wanted to go through some of the stories.
So they're called folk tales because they were just written by folk?
They were written by folk.
Yeah.
But I mean, technically, these are supposed to be true stories of stories that people believed and thought that God was intervening and making these things happen. Just like you would hear today, God helped me find my keys. This is God helps St. Patrick by giving him a magic herb, and the herb now grows on a farm of Protestants, but those people on the farm, they all died off, so they can't tell you where the herb is anymore. But this totally happened. And they will give real details, like this happened to St. Patrick, it happened in a specific town, and they'll give details like St. Patrick had a retainer of people. You might not have known that, but it did. So it has these historically verifiable links. But is this something that really happened? Did St. Patrick really get knocked off his horse and break his back, but then his back was fixed by an herb? I don't know. I don't think so. But
I don't know.
Why would you?
I mean,
if you're a Christian, why do you not believe that this happened?
Sure, it's kind of a tall tale, but then so is Jesus driving a bunch of spirits into pigs and running them over a cliff.
Yeah.
And that's canon.
That's exactly canon. But I wanted to go through some of the extended universe stories. So I made them short because the Irish are not necessarily great storytellers. But I wanted to give some of the stories. So this is the more complicated. This is one of the more complicated stories. But so this man falls in love with a woman, and he wants to marry her, but she says that he has to go through a whole bunch of hoops and trials before she will agree to marry, or before her father will let it happen. So in the end, the man gets a short green man who helps him out, a hat that turns him invisible, slippers that will take you anywhere you want to go, a sword that can break rocks, and he gets some friends, an amazing gunsmith who can shoot at anything, a man with fantastic hearing that can look down, that can put his ear down to the ground and hear anything that's going on with it. A man who can control the wind by blowing it out through his nose. And at the end, it is revealed that all of these people and things help him because they were sent by God. They were angels. And so there's an angel out there who can blow gusts of wind out his nose, but only if he closes one nostril to do it out. And so they end up married and happy, and it works out fantastically. So is this a real thing? Are there really angels that help this guy marry this woman who didn't want to marry him because she put him through a lot of hoops? And if it's not a real thing, then why is that? Why is this a story that Christians don't believe in, despite the fact that it's written down, people believed it, and they tied it to God, and they thought it was a real God thing?
Do you think there are some people who believe that today? I mean... Who
would believe this story?
Yeah.
Maybe. But it's not something that I've heard.
It's not terribly mainstream.
It's not mainstream. It's very extended universe. It's like the the rabbit friend of Han Solo. Nobody really likes or believes that.
Or Chewbacca's son Stinky, is it? Or no,
That's his father.
Okay. Lumpy. Lumpy's the father.
Lumpy's the father.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
terrible.
Stinky is like a hut in.
Oh, it's the baby hut.
Yeah. No,
This is terrible that we know these things.
But it's like that is the point.
It is a lot like
and this
that.
is all from the Christmas special, so.
Well, part of it.
Yeah. The other one's from Clone Wars. Okay, anyway.
Nerd. Okay, so here's another one. The giant serpent. So there was a serpent that was as big as one of the hills around, and it appeared out of nowhere. Saint Finner came, walked around a lake 3 times, sprinkled holy water. The serpent ran away down the river, and it became the River Lee. And he stopped for a little while, and it became Loch Lu. And then the serpent went into the sea and disappeared forever. And this is a story of, this saint banishing this serpent from the earth, from Ireland, and getting rid of it. And is this a thing that really happened? Was this like a dragon or a dinosaur that stuck around? And why would a Christian not believe this? The whole town said that they saw it, and they built a monastery at the location to commemorate this event that happened.
Wait, does that monastery really exist, or does the story just say that they built a monastery
Well,
there?
the story says they built a monastery.
Okay.
There's probably a monastery.
Could you go
there.
find that monastery, I wonder? And shouldn't
This
they
happened
have,
at Cork, so
shouldn't
if
they
there's a
have-
Cork monastery, then yes.
Shouldn't this giant dragon be featured in like animatronics at Ken Ham's Creationist Museum? I mean, why should he just limit himself to the Bible canonical stories?
Yes, I mean, if there are behemoths and leviathans,
Right.
then this is a thing that could have existed. And why do Christians not believe that this is a true story?
And unicorns. They argue
Yes.
seriously about unicorns.
Yes. So I don't think I've ever heard Ken Ham try to defend the serpent that was banished by Saint Finbar. Apologies if I'm butchering that saint's name. All right, so I've got 2 more stories, and this one's kind of boring, but there was a priest who was going along his horse, and he met a whole bunch of wee folk, aka fairies, and the fairies asked him, "Hey, do we get to go to heaven?" And he said, "Well, if you've got a drop of blood of Adam in you, then you do have a chance to get in heaven." And the fairies all cried because they don't have drops
Mark,
of
we've got
blood
the
of
message
Adam.
now, right?
Yes, thank you. So fairies don't get to go to heaven, is what is canonical in Irish folktales. So there are fairies and they are real, and this priest saw them along the road. And is that a true thing? Christians, do you have to believe in fairies now? Because this priest says he saw the fairies. And they were curious about getting into heaven.
Just as credible.
Did he make that up? Why would he make that up?
Just as credible as Paul seeing Jesus on the road to Damascus.
Yes. And scales falling from his eyes.
Right.
And apparently fairies don't get into heaven. They don't really explain why, except having the blood of Adam is important.
Yeah.
But they
okay.
don't exactly say why. So these are not all the greatest stories, but they're some of the best. I apologize to Irish people. So this last one I liked.
Do you want to make the standard disclaimer that you can do this because you're part Irish?
I am part Irish, so I can insult my own heritage, just like Jews. Just like Russell does with Jews.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes. So this is the story of Billy Duffy. He got 3 wishes from a passing saint, but he was selfish, and he made selfish wishes, and so the saint cursed him. He wished for an armchair that whoever sat in it couldn't get up unless Billy let him out, a sledgehammer that whoever picks it up couldn't put it back down, and a coin purse that only he could take his coins out of. So he exploited these gifts steal from people, basically, because he said, "Hey, sit down in my armchair," and then he wouldn't let him up until they gave him all this gold.
Here, want to see a magic trick? Put some coins in this purse.
Yeah, exactly. So he exploited this, and then and after a while, everybody hated him, and he didn't have any money anymore because people got wise to him. But then he tried to make a pact with the devil, and he tricked the devil because he said, "Hey, devil, sit down in my armchair." And then he didn't let the devil up for like a few years, and the devil said, "Finally, all right, I'll give you money." And then he did that 3 times with the devil. And
Wait, 3 times?
3 times. Well, not the armchair. The second time he said, "Hey, devil, will you hand me that hammer?" And the devil handed him the hammer. And it's the biggest stretch is with the coin purse, which is where he says, "Hey, why don't you turn yourself into money and get into my coin purse?" Which the devil falls for, because the Irish devil is not very intelligent. So he tricks the devil, and then when he dies, you would think, well, that guy was a total jerk, he's going to go to hell. But then when he gets to hell, the devil says, "No, you are not allowed in here. I remember you. Get out of here, go up to heaven."
That'll show him.
So that guy, Billy Duffy, had that happen. But here's the thing that I like about this story, is that right after it there's a second story about Willie, and he has the same thing happen to him. But instead of initially getting the 3 wishes from a saint, he gets it from the devil himself, which makes it a little more ridiculous that the devil falls for it. But here are 2 different stories that are telling the same story, two different sources. So this is collaboration, like what happens in the Bible. And there are some details that are different, like it's Willie versus Billy. But, that it's like looking at a car accident. Sometimes the details are a little off, but they add together into a story that is true and actually happened. And so this is supposed to be a canonical story of what happened with this guy and the devil. And it's got, collaborating stories, just like the Bible has. So is this a story that Christians believe in? And if they don't, then why not? Because it has to do with real people and real characters, and it's got, it's just as much evidence as the Bible does.
Would you say the stories are internally consistent with each other? Because that's something you hear Christians harp on about the Bible a lot.
About them being internally consistent?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it is as internally consistent as the Bible.
and
if
I
not more so,
suppose consistent with the Bible also.
Well, I mean, there's no mention in the Bible about whether fairies get into heaven or not. Jesus doesn't mention it. So I guess that lines up with canon. It does not break.
Yeah, so the Bible
anything
doesn't
that the Bible
say that saints grant wishes, but it doesn't say they can't.
Right.
I guess.
No.
All right. Well, food for thought, guys.
So if the Bible is true and real, then, are these extended universe stories also true and real? And if they're not, then why not? And if you believe in current miracles and current, angels and heavenly interference, then are these heavenly interferences also things that actually happened? So that's my topic.
Okay. Thanks. We have 2 Christian callers lined up, but we're going to warm up on Enrique because he has been waiting patiently for about 30 minutes, I think. Hello?
Hey, what's up?
Not much. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing? I want to
Good.
congratulate you guys. You're having a good show. I like it a lot.
Thanks.
On YouTube, first time I called. Hey, I have a couple questions for you guys.
Yeah?
The first one, I guess, is how I see people, like I have, for example, my little cousin, she's basically in 12th grade, and she had a friend, and she was talking to me about, like, she went to the church and blah, 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 and have you seen that, like, Illuminati conspiracy or whatever that's called? So basically, they talked to her a lot on that church. So basically, I was wondering if they are maybe the ones who are the real conspiracy. Maybe if you understand what I'm saying, because they're basically believing in something kind of crazy and tricking or that's what I feel like, maybe tricking their believers, example their followers. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So you're saying that Christianity is like conspiracy theory believers?
No, not at all.
Are you saying that Christianity was invented by Illuminati to trick people or something?
No, not at all. I mean this church in particular. One of my cousin's friends go to it, and her feedback is that she talked about all that stuff you see on YouTube. Rihanna sold her devil, their soul to the devil, blah 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 blah. So they're using all that crazy stuff to manipulate or to make believe their stuff. So basically, they're believing in two gods: the devil, that you can also sell your soul and have material stuff, but there's a good guy that he really don't get you money or anything like that. He's just the good one. You got to follow him. So
okay. So what's the question?
No, I was just asking if do you think they really believe that, because you had that topic in there or something like that? That's like claiming miracles. Do you think they really believe that Rihanna got $1 million for selling her soul, or some other, or me? Because
I don't know these people. I wouldn't want to speculate. I mean, I think that most people who promote religious beliefs, even really unlikely ones, manage to talk themselves into believing that what they're saying is true, even if they don't start out that way. It's also possible that they're standing up there telling a bunch of lies, but I have no idea.
Okay, gotcha. I have another question. I'm pretty sure I heard Matt saying, or someone here saying that atheism was here first.
Maybe.
Am I right or no?
We can't speak for Matt or everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, did people not believe in any gods before they invented gods?
Yeah.
Probably.
Is that right?
Probably. I mean, do cats believe in gods? No.
No, well, the thing is, I kind of thought there first needed to be a religion for you to be an atheist.
No.
Or no?
I wouldn't say that.
No?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think you could have an argument about that.
You'd have to be an anti-theist to say, no, that is a thing I don't believe in.
Yeah, but atheist just means you don't believe in any gods. So, I would say that as long as you have the capacity to believe in a god and you don't, then you're an atheist, whether there are any god concepts or not.
Well, yeah, true. Maybe about that.
Okay.
Sure. And another thing, quick. I was reading the Harris book of Free Will. This is the last one. I won't take the time.
Okay.
Free Will, and basically I think it's really good, and I kind of feel that those claims are pretty, just by logic, I don't have no, basically I'm just trusting whatever he says, but basically that's my thing. Can you guys talk a little about that?
About free will?
And you guys talk about it?
Too much.
Too much? Okay.
That's a long topic.
Right.
Okay. Yeah,
all right.
Cool. I guess
okay.
It was.
Thanks for calling, Enrique.
Yeah,
Bye.
No worries.
John in Chicago.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?
Pretty good.
Great. Thanks for waiting.
Cool. Yeah, interesting topic on the fables and folklore.
Thank you.
Yeah, I get where you're going with that, but I guess I would have to say, as a Christian, you have to put each so-called miracle into context and examine the evidence individually and then come to a conclusion. But as a Christian,
Sure.
I believe that the biggest miracle already occurred, which is the creation of life in the universe.
Okay.
So anything after that would just really be arbitrary.
So do you believe in the giant serpent thing?
Or do you
Well,
think
like I said, it has to be examined in context. I mean, if dinosaurs really did roam with men at one point in the past, then I guess that would be a plausible interpretation in their time. We might not understand their rhetoric at that time, and they probably wouldn't understand ours today, so it has to be put in the context.
So you think the stories in this book may well be credible?
at least some of them?
In my view, yes. But like I said, each one would have to be examined.
Got your answer.
All right.
As far as Genesis is concerned, if that's true, then any other miracle that God chooses to do, I guess, would be possible. But I would say that atheists, strong atheists, have beliefs in miracles as well. So I think it's just a matter of interpreting.
What do you mean by miracle?
Yeah.
Well, in my view, life creating itself would be a miracle.
Why?
Because of the immense improbability of it doing so naturally.
Why do you think that?
Well, DNA is very complicated, and so is the cell.
Okay.
And,
a lot of complicated things happen in the world, but I mean, by miracle you mean, actually it's kind of weird to refer to life occurring naturally as a miracle, since I would think a miracle by definition is something that didn't happen naturally. So I'm going to have to ask again, what do you mean by miracle?
Do you believe that something can come from nothing?
I don't know.
Okay. So you're agnostic about the Big Bang.
You didn't answer what did you mean by miracle?
Well, what do you mean by miracle? Is something that God has to do or supernatural?
So
I think
something that only God or a supernatural thing could have caused to happen, is what you're saying.
Right. I believe that life cannot create itself here on Earth naturally. Therefore, life has to come from a supernatural source.
Okay, and where does this supernatural source come from?
Outside of nature.
And how do you know that exists?
Well, you can't know that exists. That's just an inference to the best explanation. I ask myself, if I find digital code, if I go to Mars and find digital code on Mars, do I assume that the elements did it, or a digital code programmer did it?
What kind of digital code? I mean, are we talking about a CD-ROM on Mars or something?
No, I'm talking about the digital code, like the digital code in DNA.
So if you found DNA on Mars, you would assume God put it there?
No, I said if I went to Mars and I found a digital language code in any form that I find it, whether it's on a ROM or in a molecule, I think the inference to the best explanation for digital code is a mind, not nature.
Well, I don't necessarily know that that's a fair comparison, because on Mars there's not a lot of raw materials for this thing to happen. A better comparison would be, could you find an interesting shape in the sand on Mars? Because Mars has a lot of sand, and it turns out that there are a lot of interesting shapes that are formed in the sand on Mars. So some of them, if you look up like Martian face, people think that there's a shape of a face on Mars.
Those are patterns. Those are prescriptive information.
Well,
right,
so
but
is
that's
DNA.
what DNA is, just a very complicated pattern.
No, it's a prescriptive code, information code, which.
No, we call it an information code because that's a metaphor for things that we're familiar with. But basically, what DNA is just chemicals doing their thing.
Yeah, if you think about this table, the table is a prescriptive code for hold things up.
No,
don't let it down. So if you put it on there, it just does its thing naturally. There's no angel that reminds it.
Sure, DNA is more complex.
It's more complex.
And I mean, part of what makes
smaller.
DNA interesting is that it's a replicator. But other than that, I mean, you know, attributing what? A replicator of itself.
And what is it though? That's not a description of DNA. DNA is a digital language code.
No, I mean what you're saying is, what you're saying is just interesting metaphors that people have come up with to describe DNA. What DNA actually is a bunch of chemicals in a particular pattern that's capable of replicating itself. That's basically what it is. What?
Are you familiar with who Craig Venter is?
Craig Venter?
No.
Yes.
No, not personally.
Okay, Craig Venter is probably one of the most renowned geneticists, and he disagrees with what you say.
One thing I notice is that whenever creationists cite somebody, I mean, you know, it's interesting that the most renowned geneticist is somebody that a lot of people haven't heard of.
Well,
I mean, you can do without the superlatives.
So you haven't heard of Craig Venter?
I might be able to jog my memory if I looked him up, but right now his name's not coming to mind. But I'm not a geneticist.
The thing that's more interesting or important or anything than a single geneticist or a single authority would be something like a textbook. So if you were to say to me, hey, are you familiar with this textbook or this, research paper, research book, which is a collaborative effort where people have come together and said, yeah, this is the best to our knowledge of how it works.
But it is your claim, though, correct, that DNA is not information, it's just chemical reactions?
No, I didn't say it's not information.
Are you saying the table is not conveying information? This table is currently conveying a height information and a weight information, and it is hard-coded into the table.
It's designed to hold things up. It's not designed, however, to send or receive information and build other things such as a cell.
Okay. So
well, the waves are. I mean, do you like waves send and receive?
Like ocean waves?
Ocean waves, yeah. Do you think that, would you call ocean waves coded information?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
When you find the binary code on your computer encoded information?
Yeah, but I mean, that is just a function of how we've created it and how we choose to read and write to it.
Right. We had to sequence information into a coded form to convey a message to the processor.
But when you said a code on Mars, what did you mean exactly? Because you didn't like the DNA idea, and you didn't mean literally DNA. Or
digital code.
Like what?
DNA.
Like what are you imagining finding on Mars?
If you
because if you're just talking about more DNA, then you're begging the question.
What was that?
If you're just talking about finding more DNA, then you're begging the question by assuming that the DNA was designed in some way.
And you already shot down faces.
No, I said digital code. If we found
I don't know what you mean by that.
Of experience, you
would tell me, give me, yeah.
When you're just repeating digital code, it sounds to us like you are just repeating something, like some talking points, and this is not an original idea. So what we're trying to ask you right now is, what does that mean to you, and why do you find this a compelling argument, and why should we find it compelling?
Right, like paint a picture for me. We go to Mars and we find what? Like we're walking. We got astronauts walking on Mars, and they pick up a.
Let's say they pick up a molecule.
There's lots of molecules on Mars, yeah.
Or a book.
They pick up a book.
They pick up a book.
That would look like a human artifact, and so, yeah, they would probably expect that there have been people there.
A book is a digital language code.
It is? How?
A message
a molecule?
From a sender to a receiver. You understand that?
No. How does that work?
Well, I just like that in this universe, God is God has decided in his infinite wisdom to put a book on Mars, and he's like, well, that's it. Job done.
Is it a radio? Is it sending radio waves with a language in it?
Book's fine. A book is a
fine
thing.
So we found a book.
We find a book.
That's what you had in mind?
Something like
that.
Yes,
a book would be considered a language code, yes.
Okay,
so that would be a miracle.
Book, and I'd look at it, and I'd say, looks like somebody went to Mars without telling us.
Right. You would conclude intelligence wrote the book.
Right, because it's similar to human artifacts. I mean, if the book is written in English or something, it reminds me of stuff that people we know exist have produced before.
With intelligent minds, right?
Well, specifically people.
Right, who have intelligent minds.
Yes, they have intelligent minds.
Yeah.
I wouldn't conclude that it was a god, though.
Which is a book of instructions on how to make you.
Okay, I can imagine somebody writing that book.
Wow, that would be either crazy long or crazy short.
Right, DNA is extremely long.
Right.
Right. So what's your problem with that?
I don't have a problem with that. Now what?
It's a thing that hasn't happened. I don't conclude
there's a God, though. Yeah, and it hasn't happened.
So.
What's that?
So, I mean, you've done a great job conveying what a miracle could look like, but this is not a thing that happened.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you're asserting that it happened. You know how DNA got here.
What?
I said it's just your assertion that it happened already. You have not observed DNA coming into existence. You don't know how DNA got here.
Yes, I have.
You need to believe that it came about naturally.
I watched my son being born.
Then somebody creating it. Am I wrong?
That nobody sat there and watched it happen?
I mean, no, nobody watched the first DNA form because as far as we know, to watch is a function of an intelligent mind, which is the end result of a whole bunch of evolution that happened after DNA got here. There's no evidence that there's some nebulous, invisible intelligence floating around that doesn't have DNA as a medium, because the only intelligence that we're familiar with in the universe, the only direct experience that we've had with intelligent minds is that which comes from meat brains which evolved. Do you have a counterexample?
That is the entrance to the best explanation. We have intelligent brains that can decipher whether something is intelligent.
So you're assuming.
Hold on, you both are assuming that I wasn't there and that I didn't watch it happen.
Okay, were you there?
Yes.
Oh, she was there.
I saw it happen.
Wow. Can I have your autograph?
Sure thing.
Yeah, you can come on over to Austin.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. You believe that she was there to see DNA, but you won't believe water turned wine?
I can't prove she wasn't there, and that seems to be just as good as your claim.
Well, the thing is, I didn't start off back then. I did do some time travel. So
you did.
There was a little bit of cheating. I mean, do you believe me?
I don't, but if you prove it to me, sure, I'll think about it.
Well, hold on. I mean, why should I have to prove it to you? I'm telling it to you now, and you weren't there to see me not do it.
Right. So I have to take it on faith, right?
Well, you're okay with taking the giant snake on faith.
I have a reason, though.
What reason?
What's the reason? Because you can't think of anything better?
No, because I believe that everything was designed according to laws, and that whoever designed the laws can break them if he chooses.
Okay, well, you got no evidence of that.
He broke them with me. He let me do it.
He let you do
it. Have you asked? He's very forgiving.
What was that? So you said that you were time traveling DNA creator.
Why don't you ask God if she did that or not?
Yeah. Or if he'll let you do it. Have you ever asked him to let you time travel? I don't think
maybe he will.
I don't think
I mean, what kind of argument is that? I mean, it seems like you guys are doing a lot of running.
I don't think he's ever asked God to let him time travel.
Okay. Well,
but we should move on.
Yeah,
maybe
we
to someone
should.
who
Thanks
has.
for calling. You can call back. Bye, John.
Yeah.
Bobby in New York.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Hello.
I'm doing well. It's good to hear from you guys. I've been listening to your show a lot for the past year, and I really enjoy a lot of the topics that you talk about, and you guys have definitely helped me expand my critical thinking over the past year.
Oh, great.
Good.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, so what I wanted to talk to you about today is that why I believe in an afterlife. And I guess that you can be an atheist and still believe in an afterlife.
You can.
Yes.
I kind of doubt that you can be terribly skeptical and believe in an afterlife unless you've got some evidence for it. So go ahead.
Well, you guys have probably heard of all the arguments before, so it's probably nothing new. But the idea is that it's like Rene Descartes' argument that if you wake up one day and you go to your bathroom mirror and you don't see any reflection, and you look down and there's no body there, but you know that you're there, and it's can you imagine that happening? Not actually happening, but just in a fantasy world, imagine it happening. And just because you can imagine that, that means that the mind and the body are two separate things. Because you can't imagine a world where, that table that you're sitting at now is there but isn't there at the same time. But you can imagine a world where you exist, yourself is there, but your body isn't. So that means that the death of the body doesn't necessarily mean the death of the mind.
I can imagine a lot of stuff that isn't true.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
yeah,
can imagine I'm a cyborg,
Right.
but
I got a metal electronic
Sure,
brain, but I'm not.
yeah.
Wait, what?
But I'm not one. I mean, as far as we know, minds need a medium to exist in.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it was one of the things that I was reading about was that you're really just deceiving yourself. You really can't imagine the two being the same thing. You just kind of...
No,
Even
I
if you
totally
could-
can.
Yeah, even if you could totally imagine that happening, even if I could imagine that Russell has an exact twin, he doesn't.
Right.
As far as you know.
Right, yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, that was just an interesting thought that I wanted to share with you guys.
So in summary, you thought there was an afterlife because you believe that mind and body are two separate things.
Well, I mean, it's a possibility that I just thought it was a possibility that that the self, because you can imagine them being two separate things, that the death of one or the ending of one doesn't mean that the other is necessarily attached to it, that it doesn't have to be the same thing.
Well, I'd like to believe that, but all the actual physical evidence that we have is that when somebody's brain dies, they die. I mean, there aren't any examples we've seen of just a mind floating around without something to hold it in.
Yeah.
So it seems like mind is an emergent property of physical stuff.
A lot
Yeah.
of the things that we know about how the brain works actually comes from people with brain damage in certain parts of their brain, and we don't say, well, if the back of your brain is damaged, you lose a lot of the ability to see, and that's just a part.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. I mean, I knew it was kind of a shaky thing. I kind of just wanted to hear someone else's opinion on
Sure.
it.
Yeah,
Well, it's tempting. There's no doubt. I mean, there's a reason so many people believe in the afterlife, because nobody wants to think they're going to die.
yeah.
I don't
it
like
would
to
be
think about
nice. It would be nice to not die.
Yeah.
It sure
And
would
I
be.
would think that I was thinking that if a proof for an afterlife would be sort of more solid than just kind of a mind game.
Well,
but yeah,
not necessarily. I mean, you can do mind games, but the last time I was on the show, I did a mind game, which was kind of, well, if a soul existed and there was dualism, what would you expect to see? And the kind of thing that you would expect to see would be, you would not have a brain, because what's the point of having a brain? You would just kind of puppet each limb individually, and the changes maybe in your muscles would just come from nowhere. There wouldn't be any chemically traceable link to anything, because you would just be puppeting these things. Or if it was somehow the brain was some kind of conduit, you would see some kind of a sensory organ and some kind of communicating organ, like you would with the ear when you hear things. But there's no such structure in the brain or chemical in the brain. It's just the brain. Yeah,
that's a good point. And to go back on what you said before, is when you were talking about like brain damage, relegating the functions of the body. It's like one of the things that I heard Sam Harris say is that like if you damage more parts of the brain, the more you damage, the more it gets impaired. But people think that if you damage the entire thing, then you can just be sort of reassembled and just recognize grandma and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And like, I mean, you think about somebody who's so brain damaged that they've lost a bunch of their memories. Is there a soul out there that has perfect recall of every memory that they seem to have lost, but they can't seem to send it to the body, so the body is just acting all confused? And I guess then, in what sense is the body really connected to that mind?
Yeah. So I mean, it was just an interesting idea that I thought I should talk to you guys about.
All right. Well, read up on cognitive science. I think you would find it really interesting.
And maybe do some coming to grips with death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is terrible, terrible thing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Ronald in Los Angeles.
Hey, how y'all doing? First of all, I'm an atheist.
Okay.
And I'm just sitting around waiting for my fellow atheists to catch up. First of all, the belief...
Are you the gay marriage guy?
No.
Okay.
What gay marriage guy? I don't know what you're talking about.
I think he is.
No, it's not. I don't know what gay marriage guy. I don't know what
He
you're talking about.
protests too much.
No, but
Tell us what we need to catch up on.
Right, what do we need to catch up on?
All right, first of all, the belief in God and religion is an embrace delusion, okay?
Yeah.
Because the belief in God and religion is an evolutionary psychological immune system, and what it does, it reduces stress. In this particular case, the belief in God is beneficial to them because they reduce stress. Now, I know you're atheist, and you're going to say other things reduce stress, because I know how you think in your...
You know what? The consensus of the chat room is that you are Charlie Checkham, and so rather than take that chance, I think we're not interested in you.
So, yeah, religion's not real.
Yeah.
And
we do not think
match
that
the
it's
curve.
right. We do not think that it's worth believing in something that we know not to be true just to feel good about ourselves. So try something else. Lydia in Los Angeles also.
Hello. Hi, Glassers.
You are not Charlie Checkham, I'm sure of that.
I am absolutely not. And, wow, it's kind of amazing how that guy keeps getting through, but...
it's hard work screening the calls. Don't rag on the call screeners.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, I understand. I mean, anyway, I just called to discuss the subject of present-mindedness, how it is both exploited and ignored in modern-day apologetics, and has even been both exploited and ignored throughout the history of apologetics.
Present-mindedness, you said?
Yeah.
Yes, present-mindedness. Well, present-mindedness is basically thinking from a mindset which exists because of the circumstances of the present-day world, and therefore attributing beliefs of the past to the same kind of understanding of the world that you'd have currently, which one of the biggest problems with that is when you try to apply modern reasoning to people who existed long before a number of discoveries and
so if I can paraphrase just to make sure I understand you, like, we all know that, let's say, the Earth is round and it goes around the sun.
Correct.
And that shapes a lot of our thinking about a lot of different things that we also know. And when people think about people in the past, they kind of come at it with a context of people who are familiar with modern science and don't project like what the limitations of their knowledge would have been back then. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And that was a great example because, I mean, there are a lot of people that will argue that the Bible was not written to literally express that the world was flat. However, there are a lot of verses that contradict the theory of heliocentrism, which I've seen modern apologists try to sort of explain away, basically just try to say, oh, well, they actually knew that the Earth revolved around the sun, and they wrote it in this other way.
Like I've heard Muslim apologists say that the speed of light is written in the Quran, sort of like that.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, those sorts of things. Yeah, exactly. And it's actually kind of serendipitous that you were talking about the extended universe earlier, and that was the topic that I managed to finally get through because I've called before. I've never gotten through before now.
Sure,
but because when you look at the modern day holy books that are being used, the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran, and other holy books that are still in use, but let's just focus on those three because they're the ones I know.
sure.
That, in a way, they were an extension of previously existing religions, many of which were pagan. You can still trace their roots. You can still see the impact that they've left on them. I came from a Jewish family, so I was raised to believe in the synagogue that I attended that basically ancient Jews were not pagans at all. They had none of those beliefs. They were so disavowed from that school of thought.
Monotheism just appeared in their culture out of nowhere.
And
correct. Well,
no
Abraham,
golems. Golems are
all
Jewish.
those statues.
Yeah.
So, because he knew, and, he wasn't favoring one of the statues. That's what they tell me. That's what they're going to say. Well, he wasn't favoring the statue he didn't smash. Well, how do we know that? I mean, if any of this is even true, how do we know that he didn't choose the whichever God he liked the best and say, well, that's the real one? But, looking at it from even back that far, when people started to, spread the story of Abraham, that was still looking at it from a present-minded viewpoint even at the time. The people back then, they weren't, I mean, some of them weren't even fully monotheistic, and yet they were saying that, oh, well, we have a superior, way of looking at things, and, it's so far advanced from past systems, because, and so that's I'm sorry. I'm a little bit nervous.
Well,
That's all right.
we have a few minutes left. Is there anything in particular that you'd like us to discuss with you about that?
I just kind of wanted to get some feedback on what you thought about it, and maybe how to respond to that if I choose to respond to it. I mean,
Well,
a lot of things are pretty obvious, but
how to respond to people saying that ancient people had knowledge they had no way of knowing?
well, yeah. In a way that, I mean, I realize you can say that and you can point to sources of, well, like I think I mentioned, geometry wasn't really a developed field of mathematics at the time that the Torah was written.
Right. Well, I mean,
I mean, even if you back them into a corner and you say, and they have to admit something that was just completely not real, they'll say, well, it was a miracle.
Right.
So, I mean, we had the Christian guy who agreed that, yeah, maybe there could have been a snake that was as big as a hill.
Yeah, that guy was willing to take the folklore seriously.
Created a lake and a lock because who are we to say it didn't happen?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, we talk to people on the show, but we're not necessarily talking to those people. I mean, we're talking with them, but when we've got a guy like that hardcore creationist, the best you can do is use him to make a point, because I have no expectation of changing that guy's mind or on anything. And if you see, people see us doing the show sometimes and think, oh, they're trying to change the minds of all those people, and I can do that too. And then they talk to their relatives, and they're like, oh, this guy's not budging at all. I must be doing it wrong. And no, you're not necessarily doing it wrong. You just can't change some people's minds.
Yeah, you don't have a hang-up button.
Right.
No, I don't.
Which is what's our advantage.
Yeah, so when you're dealing with this stuff in interpersonal relationships, you've got a choice of talk about it as long as it's entertaining to you and as long as you think the other person is getting something out of it. And then when you get bored, just say, I'm tired of talking about this topic now, let's talk about sports.
Right. Okay. Also, just as a brief aside, I noticed one of the Irish folk tales that you were talking about has a lot of similarities with stories told by Baron Munchausen in the I think it was the 1800s. I'm sure that one inspired the other. Probably the Irish folk tale is a little older. So
well, you can write into the TV show and we can compare notes and see who ripped off who.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're out of time, so thank you, Lynnea, for a wonderful, delightful show.
Thank you for having me, and hopefully Matt is having a good time, and Jeff as well.
I bet he's not. But goodbye, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you to the crew.